I ordered 3 desserts. After an enormous meal served at a wonderful Greek restaurant where I had gyro, pasticcio, and moussaka, and I was full and happy, but I still ordered 3 desserts. Why? Because I was celebrating. And celebrating is an important component of maintaining an ongoing, intentional, and productive creative life. This episode will not be anywhere near as enjoyable as having 3 Greek pastries to savor. In fact, it won't even be close. But I'm still inviting you to join me on this episode of The Million Words Project. Welcome to the Million Words Project update for weeks 24 and 25. I'm your host, Eric Sheridan Wyatt. 25 weeks ago, I challenged myself to write 1 million new words over the next year. And in this video series, I document my progress and share some of the things I'm learning about my creative life and myself along the way. I make these videos to reinforce what I'm learning within myself, but also I hope something I say here might encourage you to pursue that long-time creative project you've always dreamed of, but you've never quite gotten around to achieving. So the big realization is this is the halfway show. That's right, 25 weeks is halfway through the Million Words Project. When I devised the schedule for this year-long quest to reach 1 million new words, I intentionally built in 2 weeks of downtime. I did this partly because 1 million words divided by 52 weeks would have given me a weekly target of like 19,230.7692307 something. However, 1 million divided by 50 makes for a nice round 20,000 word weekly target. In fact, if you were here for the first episodes of this video series, you might remember I actually started with the 20,000 word per week target in mind, and then realized that over a year that pace would equal about 1 million words, and that's where the idea for the Million Words Project was born. I also know that having some downtime is good for all of us. So I built in a couple of vacation weeks where I knew I'd be able to have some wiggle room with meeting the ongoing word count targets and still stay on track. In fact, after week 25, I actually took a 2-week hiatus from the Million Words Mindset, which is something I will talk about in an upcoming episode. But for now, let's see what happened in weeks 24 and 25. If you tuned in to the last episode, you'll remember that in week 23, I finished off a 5-week span of prioritizing my fiction writing. And in that week, I wrote over 32,000 words. Part of the reason I wrote so much that week was related to the sprint to finish a rough draft of a book of interconnected short stories I was writing, but there was another reason I wrote so much. I had intentionally carved out a week of time where writing was my primary focus, and I wanted to make the most of it. Most weeks, writing is only one part of the balance of life responsibilities I have. But in week 23, I put extra emphasis on writing. I knew that there were several weeks coming up when I would have considerably less time to write. Weeks 24 and 25 were both short work weeks for me. Even though I'm posting this in March or April, these 2 weeks were in December, and they included both my birthday and the ramp up to Christmas and New Year's. My wife and I traveled to Florida to celebrate my birthday in Tarpon Springs and then visited with her family in the Tampa Bay area. I also knew that I had an intentional hiatus scheduled for the first 2 weeks of the new year, so I really used week 23 to bank some extra words to make up for the changes I already knew were on the horizon. And I'm going to give you a preview, a little sneak peek into the second half of the Million Words Project. The changes that I knew were on the horizon were only a fraction of the challenges that lay in front of me. But those things will be revealed in later episodes. For now, let's focus on where I was during weeks 24 and 25. As you can see in the numbers, I came off of a week of being 12,000 words above target and had back-to-back weeks right at 2,000 words below target, which actually wasn't too bad. Even though I have a 20,000 word target each week, I know some weeks are not conducive to hitting that target. Other weeks, 20,000 is relatively easy for me to achieve. So for these specific 2 weeks, I had set a bare minimum target of 15,000 words, and I actually exceeded that both weeks. So even though I was below the steady pace target of 20,000 words, I actually did slightly better than I had originally planned. And don't forget, I had already passed the mid-project target of 500,000 words last week. If we look at the cumulative totals, you'll see that by the end of week 25, I had accumulated 545,340 new words. If you look closely, you'll see that the pace number in this chart is wrong. It should say the pace is 500,000. So forgetting that error, the bottom line is this. I wrapped up the first half of the year-long challenge about 9% ahead of the pace I had set for myself. And that was a great feeling. I went into the planned hiatus on a bit of a literary high. I even got to celebrate hitting the halfway mark while I was celebrating my birthday. And that brings us to this week's topic. That's right. This week I'm going to talk about fabulous Greek food and ordering 3 desserts. Well, sort of. Well, it's true, as part of my birthday celebration, I did eat some amazing Greek food in Tarpon Springs, and I did, in fact, order 3 pastries from the Greek Cafe for dessert. But the point I'd actually like to make is this. It's good to celebrate your victories. Now, my midpoint literary celebration just happened to line up with my birthday, so it made it a little easier. But I really was celebrating how far I've come in the 6 months of this Million Words Challenge. I had just finished a draft of a brand new book, which was a major win for my literary revival. And I'd crossed the halfway point of the challenge with plenty of room to spare. I was actually more than 2 weeks ahead of pace. I'd also just had a week of writing more than 30,000 words, and that sort of proved that I could write even more whenever I have the time to actually do so. And that was a big win. It was the biggest writing week I'd had in more than 8 years, and it felt really good. And taking the time to reflect on this in my morning journal, I wrote, "This wouldn't have even seemed possible last year at this time. I was happy and things were going well enough, but I wasn't writing, at least not like this, and I wasn't being creatively productive." That's right. It is exactly right. It's true. I still feel like I have a ways to go before I'm actually in the creative zone I would like to inhabit. I have more room for improvement, but at the same time, I've made some big progress. And one way to encourage even more progress is to recognize the wins and celebrate them a little bit. And that's exactly what I did. I said, you know what? I just finished the draft of a book, and it's a book I've wanted to write for 5 years. And I'm so happy about that. I will have 3 pastries. Thank you very much. Nelson Mandela is quoted as saying, "Remember to celebrate milestones as you prepare for the road ahead." The truth is, most of us are predisposed to getting fixated on the negatives in life. The one negative review will outweigh 100 positive comments. The one time you missed a deadline will haunt you despite all the times you've been right on the mark. One of the big benefits of this year of tracking my writing is seeing the ebb and flow of my creativity and my literary efforts reflected in the numbers each week. It has helped me have a more gentle relationship with myself and assisted in taming the harsh inner critic who can often do more harm than good. And it has helped me identify some of the celebratory milestones along the way. Taking Mandela's advice, I took some time to celebrate a milestone, as I also prepared for the next phase of this journey ahead. You see, the writing life or any creative life can sometimes feel like a slog, like it's all treading water, especially if you don't ever take a step back and get a good look at the progress you've made. Maybe you're an artist Take out some of your paintings or sketches from 5 years ago and compare to your recent work. Are you improving? Maybe you're a photographer. Is your technique and composition more confident now than you were 2 years ago? Maybe you're a business owner and you can ask yourself, are you still innovating? Are you improving your product or advancing your mission? If so, it's a good thing to celebrate those wins, even if they're small, even if you think you are still capable of more. I realized just how important it was for me to mark the halfway point of this year-long challenge with a little bit of celebration and self-congratulations. I was going to take some time off and then jump back in with enthusiasm and energy, and I used that celebration to catapult me into the second half of this project. As we wrap up this update, I'm going to challenge you. When was the last time you celebrated a victory? If it's been a while, I'm going to suggest you find a few recent wins and treat yourself to something nice. Don't get this wrong. This isn't an excuse to buy yourself a new car because you didn't hit the snooze button for a whole week, or a justification for convincing yourself that you don't have more room for improvement. But it is important, creatively and psychologically, to intentionally celebrate our progress, even if we haven't yet achieved perfection. There are 3 parts to this celebration. First, specifically name what you are grateful for. For me, it was finishing a draft of a new book and reaching the halfway point of the Million Words Project ahead of pace. Second, pick something that is decadent but reasonable. It doesn't have to be expensive or take up a lot of time, but it should be something a little extra. For me, it was extra desserts at an already celebratory dinner. If you rarely go to the local cafe but you really enjoy it, maybe just take the time to get a latte and a muffin. But if you get coffee and pastry on a regular basis, don't just pick one of those trips and say, "This is my celebration." Make it something a little beyond the ordinary. Finally, enjoy the celebratory moment with intention and ideally with someone else. Sharing the moment with my wife and acknowledging I'm taking a few minutes here to celebrate finishing the draft of my book, well, that made that baklava taste even sweeter. That's a wrap. We're now halfway through the Million Words Project, and it's fair to say there are some twists and turns about ready to hit me. I've learned a lot about myself, and I hope some of that is helpful to those of you who watch these videos. And if you found anything helpful to you, I would love to hear about it. There are ways to contact me listed in the show notes, or you can leave a comment, hit the like button, subscribe to my content, or share these videos with others. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.